Hey guys, I'm back. Mike Robert here. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to like and subscribe. So in today's video, we're going to be going over an automotive campaign. This is a lead gen campaign I was doing for a Volkswagen dealership. The GM that I was working with has since left, and the new GM, as you guys naturally know, brought in a team that he was working with before at another store. So that does happen. That's the good and the bad with some dealerships, and like when you're working with some of the bigger franchise companies, is they may already have a system that they've sold the owner on, going into a new role, and so they naturally start bringing in their own team. So I'm already used to that. So what I want to go over here is how we basically blew it up for the dealer with this campaign that we were running with, and this was in October. Yeah, October going into basically the slow season, right? Dealerships know naturally November, December, things start slowing down. The holiday time is typically the slowest time of the year for most dealerships. Okay. And basically, what we have here is we did a Facebook campaign, it was Facebook, Instagram, and we tested a little bit of TikTok, but didn't push it too hard. So we primarily focused on social media. And I want to talk about a couple of things with this particular campaign. So what I want to do is I basically want to show you guys some of the stats and the data from the campaign. I'm also going to be going over and talking to you guys in depth, how to get similar results, and then obviously some of the things you want to look for. And basically, this is the ad set level. Okay, we had one particular ad set that just took off. That's this one right here. And one of the things that we noticed as we started to optimize and test out this campaign is that there was a particular reason this ad set had taken off, and it was based on the ad copy and the text in the ad copy. And so we were split testing a couple of other variations, looking to get the metrics to see if we can duplicate and mimic data. Now, me personally, now I'm like, hey, listen, if something's working, don't try to float the boat too much, okay? Because you could mess up a campaign like that, all right? Just to be honest with you. So if something is working, leave it alone until it's not working, right? And maybe create another campaign and not necessarily play around with too many of the ad sets, all right? But overall, we had an average cost per lead of $3.61, right? Budget, as you can see, this budget right here, $20, $15. We didn't have a very aggressive daily budget. We could have pushed this needle, in my opinion, to be much more aggressive, but the dealer gave us a limited budget to really play with. So that's one of the reasons we had this low daily budget. Now, in addition to the low daily budget that we had, some of the things that I would look at if I were you is link clicks are great and clicks overall are great, but here's what you want to go into is this breakdown. So once you start performing and getting data, and this is not just automotive, this is across the board, but once you start getting conversions like this in data, if you truly want to hit the sweet spot and find out what is working, you want to start looking at your ad text. So this is the copy that you have. This is why it's good to have a few different variations. Even use some of the ones that Facebook is giving you once you write your ad copy. So every ad account may not have this feature. We have this feature, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because of spend or whatnot. But if you have this feature where the Facebook's AI is going to make a few variations of ad copy for you, just excuse me 1 second, then what you want to do is you want to utilize that, because I found that some of the ones that I don't think are really the best that Facebook has made has been converting very well. So what I mean by that is if this ad has been running, and let's say now we have 50 conversions or 40 conversions or whatever that number is for you, I want to see what demographic of people are converting the most. So typically this is at the point where you first start your campaign. Oftentimes you're going to have a spike, you should at least, or it might take a little bit of time to fizzle in. But the spike is when you start getting many conversions at the beginning, whatever that number is. It could be 10 leads, 15 leads, and then a couple of days it will start panning out and fizzling it out a little bit, right? So now we found, okay, we've got some conversions. Is Facebook now testing new audiences? And that's what they're doing, especially if you're using the Facebook's advantage placement testing, because now they're testing different placements. Essentially, Facebook is gaming the system, right? And they're going to get more money for the spend, right? So in that case, that's where we want to look at what is the text, what are the images, what are the placements that we're converting very well, and we want to optimize for that. So we want to use those texts, images, and placement. So essentially, if we have text A with image B and placement C, we want to pair those up inside of the ad group, right? And then from there, I'm sorry, inside of the ad set. And then from there, we want to run that campaign. We can even go further with age. What age group of people are converting the best for us? Initially, it's going to be at the lowest cost per lead. And then when you get feedback from your client, it's going to be what is converting into a sale. So they should have, like the dealer should have that data. If it's not a dealership, it should be another business. They should have that data to be able to provide to you. All right. So we've had age, placements, and then we also want to have the if you're running dynamic creative, this is where you can get even more fancy. What call to actions, right? And essentially exactly what are people converting on. Once you pull that out and you start, running the ad just like that, you'll see the conversions working very well. So in this case, let's just say that the majority of people that are converting are female between the ages of 35 and 45, and not necessarily 45 and 55. Well, then you want to optimize an ad set exactly for what was converting for females 35 to 45, what ad, what text, what image, right? That way that you can get conversions from that audience. And then further, you would go with the men and you just keep going with it based on the demographics that Facebook is giving you. Okay. So let's talk about the flow. All right. So one thing, if you ever ran Facebook ads for financial services like this, let me tell you something. You're going to get a mixture of people. Okay. You're going to get people that have great credit, people that have not the greatest of credit. You're going to have people that are not serious, people that are just kind of, hey, I want to get a new car, or it's a house, or whatever it is. When it's financial and credit related, you typically attract a lot of different people. Okay. So we knew that going into this encounter and this relationship with the dealership. So we created an AI chatbot that before the dealership would even see a lead that came in, would pre-screen this lead. This is, so our metrics here, we had 820 on Facebook form leads. I would say out of that, maybe 60% of them were able to pass through the cadences and go to the dealer. So in addition to which we use the Facebook lead form for this, once they filled out the form, they went to this chat bot, and this chat bot would have a text conversation with them. So on their mobile phone, that told us that number one, this person had what? A working phone number, and they were willing to communicate with us. So we asked them, very basic questions to start off. Hi, John, we got your inquiry for a new vehicle. Looks like you're looking for a truck or SUV or whatever it is. We had a few questions so that they would tell us. We would pair that up with this. Okay, then we would ask them, okay, great. Just curious, do you have any money to put down for the vehicle? People would say, yeah, I have $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, whatever that amount of money is that they were looking to put down. Some people would say, hey, I don't have much money to put down. Now that the dealership knows that and they know what they're working with, we then go ask them, okay, where's your credit score at? What are we looking at here? So those are very important questions that dealerships need to know in order to help someone find a particular vehicle. The other thing about it is once they passed, I believe we had 4 questions. Once they passed through that and agreed to speak to the dealership at that point, then it would fire off and it would trigger the dealership's CRM. So it was a robust system. Now, we also had people beating down the phone. Yeah, so in the ad itself, we had the phone number and who to ask for at the dealership. Well over 100 phone calls came in. Well over 100 phone calls. Average talk time, 10, 15, 20 minutes. Messages, comments, it was just taking off. I have more dealership campaigns we ran and running, but this is just one in particular, one that I'm showing you guys. Well over, 100 plus calls and stuff like that came in. Comments. It got so aggressive that the dealership's marketing manager, and they have a couple store heads. I think they have 5 store heads. The dealership's marketing manager had sent us a message on Facebook and said, hey, what company is this? I guess she didn't get the authorization, the approval that we were working with them, because we had gone right to the GM. And he said, hey, that he signed off on the contract. And we told her, yeah, we're working with you guys. And she said, man, you guys are making me look bad. Because at this time of the month, they were a little slow, right? And she doesn't want to look bad at her job. She's the marketing manager, right? She's going to them saying, hey, we're doing everything we can. And here we are coming in with very low budget. I think it was like $2,000 a month or something, a very low budget. We're beating down the door to, get them leads. So phone calls coming in, speaking to people, booking appointments, coming into the store, money down, A couple of things that I would do differently if I were going to run this campaign again. I probably would test this ad set with a high intent lead form. And the reason I would test it with a high intent lead form is to ask certain questions. So there were times where, because Facebook, you're going to get people's abbreviated names sometimes, right? Their AKA names. So there were some times we would see that coming in. And of course, we don't want to send that to a dealer, right? So we would want to make sure that the person puts their full name in. And believe it or not, I've tested it with other services, and people will fill out their information. If you put a good offer in front of them, they will fill their information out, okay? And other things that you might want to ask are specific questions that you might be able to get away with in Facebook now that they were not allowed a couple of months ago. So there are a couple of things in there that I would test in terms of that. But overall, I think that Facebook is a great way for dealers to get in front of their audience, because let's just face it, people are on Facebook all the time. And so some things to consider, though, is we did not run inventory specific campaigns. So an inventory specific campaign is where we're going to showcase specific vehicles from the dealer and run them. And the reason we didn't do that is because the downside is there's a lot of more optimizations that are going into place. You're constantly changing ads. And the problem with that is if you have a winning ad, the last thing you want to do is touch it. That's why I mentioned you would optimize. So you have this vehicle, once you sell it or it's about to be sold, guess what? You have to cut that ad off, right? But with the aspect of finding out what the consumer wants, do you want a truck? Do you want an SUV? Do you want a car? These are basic questions. Okay, great. Now, maybe you have the car on that lot, or you can get them the car, but now you can invite them into the store for that appointment, right? So there are some stores that are going to run inventory specific. I personally don't like them. A lot more work. You're going to constantly be adjusting a campaign, and it's going to affect the results of the campaign, and it's going to constantly move it in motions that you don't want to, and it's going to overall you're going to shut it off and say it doesn't work. I would just stick with a broad aspect of an audience. If you're a truck specific store, right, then I would point that out in the ad, right? So you would want to write ad copy specific about trucks. If you're a sedan specific store, point that out. It's based on your demographics. This was a highly populated metro area. Okay. We had about a 30-mile radius. So there were millions of people that we had the ability to advertise and market to. If you're in a more remote area, like I ran this campaign for another client that was in a remote area. So if that's your store and you are in an area for like trucks and stuff like that, then you want to move it. Now let's talk about location. We did run a campaign for a dealership that is very remote. They're about 100 miles from the nearest city. And even the nearest like metro city that they were close to, in my opinion, wasn't the biggest metro populated city, right? Because this was remote. One of the things we had to do, so their initial territory was not big enough. We had to expand that, and they didn't mind. The problem becomes, and this is always the biggest problem, just so you guys know, and it's should be a no-brainer, is you have to get these consumers to your store unless you're doing a drop-off service. So that could be a bit of an issue for most people. So always consider that with wanting a bigger territory, there's no problem. But if people are not willing to drive into your dealership, to your business, that's where the issues become. So for this particular store, we were able to do that where, people were crossing, they were near a major road. So people were always passing their dealership. Wasn't an issue for people to come in. And yeah, so if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Well over 800 plus leads generated for this dealership. Average cost per lead, $3.36. You can book a strategy call, cost $199. If you're a dealership, you're a business owner that wants this for your store, just make sure, number one, you have inventory. Okay, we can't sell what we don't have. So we need a good amount of inventory. This store had a lot of them. I told you 5 franchise overhead store tops. Make sure you have salespeople to follow up with leads. You have all those ducks in the row, then yeah, this would be a great conversation to have and a campaign that we can, produce good quality leads for your company. All right, bye now.